Hello and welcome to Football League World TV. It is Monday afternoon. It is time for EFL Transfer Zone. My name is Sam Mort, the Chief Editor of Football League World.co.uk, and I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Adam Jones and Chris Gallagher. Adam, how you getting on, mate?
Yeah, another transfer zone. I'm really excited, really, to get into these stories. There's plenty going on, and it's not even January yet. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Good stuff. And Chris, how you getting on, mate?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. Yeah, like you say, the rumours will pick up a lot in the next month now, so it'll be interesting to see what does happen.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are watching this show on Facebook or YouTube, please do send in your comments. What do you make of some of the transfer rumours we're going to be talking about on this show? What players, would you like your club to sign in the new year? And are there any players at your EFL side you'd like to see moved on? Please do let us know in the comments on YouTube. Right, let's get straight into it. This is a man we've spoken about on a handful of the EFL Transfer Zone shows already, and that is the future of Sam Johnstone. Another club in the Premier League have joined the race to sign the West Brom goalkeeper. Newcastle United have joined the likes of West Ham and Spurs in the race for the 28-year-old. Adam, let's come to you first. He's yet to sign a new deal at the Hawthorns. Newcastle now linked with a move for the player. Are you expecting him to leave the Hawthorns in the new year?
I'm not. I don't think so. I think he'll leave in the summer on a free transfer. I think it's really valuable to West Brom's cause at the moment, and I think they may have a ready-made replacement in David Button already. But I just think this is not the right window for him to go. I think Josh Griffiths from Lincoln City, obviously on loan at the moment, will probably overtake Button in the pecking order. So for me, I think this is probably a window or two too early, really, for West Brom to let go of him. Obviously, his contract runs out in the summer, so it might be worth making some money on him now. But I can only see them getting about 5-6 million. I know that West Ham United in the summer submitted a £6 million bid, which for him is peanuts, really. So I think it might be worth, really, because holding on to him, because he might in the end be the difference between Championship football next season or Premier League football. But either way, I think he'll move on at the end of the season, because I think he can become an established number one at a Newcastle, both before their transition and after it. I think he's that good. And it would be a fantastic coup for Eddie Howe. So for me, I think he moves on in the summer.
In terms of the Newcastle interest, Chris, they are going through a transitional period right now. They are the richest club in the world. Eddie Howe now in charge. Lots of ins and outs you'd expect over the coming months and years. If you're Sam Johnstone, Chris, would you be quite excited about this potential link to Newcastle?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, providing they stay in the Premier League, of course. But it's a big club. As we say, we're expecting a lot of business to happen, and they're obviously aiming really, really high. So I think any player would be interested. Obviously, you get the financial aspect. If he moved on a free, you can't imagine the wages he could demand as well. So, I think Newcastle would probably be realistically one of his best options, and he'll certainly be to see if that does develop into a serious offer.
Yeah, the noises are suggesting that it's looking more likely he will move in the January transfer window than in the summer. But once again, we will see what happens with that. Please do stay across Football League World for all the latest on Sam Johnstone's situation. It's sure to rumble on over the next few weeks. But the latest line is that Newcastle are one of the clubs linked with a move now for the West Brom goalkeeper. Now let's look at another piece of news next. Once again, this is a man we've spoken about on a couple of shows on Football League World TV, and that is Ben Brereton-Diaz. The Chilean international has had a phenomenal season for Rovers. He scored 16 goals in 22 games as Tony Mowbray's side launch a genuine playoff push this season. We revealed the news that Sevilla were interested in a move for Brereton-Diaz a couple of months ago. That interest has now re-emerged. Several reports stating that interest. The La Liga club currently playing in the Champions League as well. Adam, let's come to you then. Again, this is something we revealed a handful of months ago now, that the La Liga club were interested in the move. They've got a bit of a connection with signing South American players over the years. In terms of, for Brereton-Diaz, this must be quite an exciting, piece of news to hear about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, him being a Chile international game like now is a complete game changer really for him. I think before he was a Chile international, I think he would have collapsed under the pressure maybe of being at a club like Sevilla, but with kind of that international experience under his belt with so many top quality players, I think that he'll probably benefit actually from being at Sevilla. And obviously he knows a bit of the language now, I think, being with the Chile national team. So yeah, it could be a very good move for him. I know that Sevilla are a massive club, obviously once under Unai Emery and the Europa League champions and that sort of thing. But I think for me, if he plays on the wing, I think he would be a decent addition. I think it's a big club, but I don't think it's too much of a big club. I think if he moved, say, to a Real Madrid or a Barcelona, I know that expectations are massively high there, which I think he would kind of struggle to deal with even with the international experience. But with Sevilla, it does feel like the kind of the right level for him. I think he's kind of fit into the kind of the Lewis O'Brien mould, kind of going to Leeds, in terms of the fact that they probably needed to kind of bed him in first. Obviously, it's a new country for him still. Before then, he's included kind of as a regular in the first team, and he has every kind of potential to do that, considering that he's only 22. So I think it would be a good move for him. I think perhaps he'd benefit from having another full season of Championship football under his belt. But apart from that, I think it would be a good move for perhaps all parties, and then would allow Blackburn to kind of reinvest that money.
The reports do suggest that Rovers are looking for in the region of £20 million for the player. They could be tempted by a big offer in the new year, just to help them balance the books a little bit financially. Chris, in terms of Brereton-Diaz's value right now, what sort of price tag would you be putting on his head?
Yeah, I'd say 20 million would be about fair. His contract situation's the tricky thing, obviously, because I think he's got 18 months left. But as Adam touched on there, you're talking an international who's scoring goals for fun in the Championship, and his age. I think because he's been around for a long time, you forget that he's only 22. So yeah, you're ticking a lot of boxes there for like a long-term good forward, and he's versatile as well, can cover different areas in the final third. So yeah, I think Blackburn would be right to demand big money, but I think with the promotion or playoff finish certainly a possibility. I don't think they should jeopardise that in January and just keep him till the end of the season, then reassess. I can't see his value dropping considering how well he's playing. So I'll just hold out till the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, Blackburn enjoying a really, really positive run of form of late, find themselves in the top six, and Brereton-Diaz has been a key cog within that. So that you'd imagine they'd want to keep hold of him for the rest of the season. But there we go. That is news on Brereton-Diaz. Sevilla do hold an interest in the player. They could make a bid in the new year. Right, let's look at another piece of transfer news in the EFL next. Just a reminder for all those watching on Facebook and YouTube, please send in your comments. What do you make of some of the transfer rumours we are talking about? We'd love to hear your opinions. We will talk about them live on the show. We're going to go back to West Bromwich Albion. It emerged over the weekend that the Baggies are willing to let Robert Snodgrass leave in the January transfer window. The 34-year-old midfielder has failed to make the bench in West Brom's last 3 games, and you get the feeling that he's not a player Valérien Ismaël necessarily wants to utilise within his particular system. Adam, let's come to you. West Brom don't have an abundance of central midfielders right now, do they? They've got Malumbi, Livermore and Moat alongside Snodgrass. What do you make of this news? Are you kind of surprised to see them so willing to offload him or not?
I am slightly. I think I kind of have to feel sorry for him in the way, because he's never really had a chance to impress. I know that he had to have, I think it was back surgery at the end of last season. Obviously, he's missed the beginning of this season because obviously he's been recovering. And for me, I think it would be too kind of high of a turnover in midfield. I know that they've had, Yakuslu and Maitland-Niles who could play in the middle and Conor Gallagher go since the end of last season, obviously as low knees. Obviously they had Rekeem Harper obviously going to Ipswich Town as well. So it does seem like a massively high turnover in that midfield, and there's no real kind of stability in there apart from Jake Livermore. And I think for me, obviously, I don't see him as a massive starter for West Brom at this moment in time. I think at the start of the season, Jake Livermore and Alex Mallock kind of developed a nice partnership in there. Obviously, there can be questions about Livermore's kind of discipline. Obviously, I think he had 5 yellow cards already, so I think he's had 2 separate bans now, obviously, with the red card at Huddersfield as well. So, yeah, for me, I think he's one to keep until the end of the season. I don't think they're going to get any offers for him in January anyway. I don't think he's the type of player that would get a massive offer in January. I think it'd be more likely to be Johnston. So I think for me, he's one to keep until the end of the season and then kind of reassess his future. I can see why they might want to offload him because he hasn't made a massive impact, and it might, his departure might allow another player to come in. But for me, I think it would be a bit of a mistake at the moment with his experience in the middle of the park, and I still think he's a pretty decent player, especially at championship level. So for me, he's one to keep until the end of the season and then kind of reassess it from there.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of kind of sections of the West Brom support of late have been a little bit disappointed with the style of play. The results necessarily haven't been there for West Brom over the last few weeks, certainly in comparison to Bournemouth and Fulham over the last few months. You get the feeling that this window in January is going to be quite important for Ismail to bring in players that kind of adopt to his very particular style of play, very high intensity and relatively direct as well. Chris, what do you make of Snodgrass' situation? Like Adam has said, he's a player with a wealth of experience. He's done lots of things in his career. Is it useful to have players like that? Or, he is clearly someone that Ismail doesn't fancy. What would you do with him?
Yeah, well, I think we shouldn't speculate too much, but I imagine something's gone on because they've got Livermore suspended, Malumbi suspended. So they are, as we said, they haven't got depth in central midfield. So the fact this story came out over this weekend when they're going to Coventry next week with not enough options in midfield, or senior options anyway, suggests that something has gone on there. And because otherwise, you'd have to keep him because they just simply don't have the players. Obviously, in January, he'll bring in a midfield. I'd say that would be a priority, but for now, there's still a lot of football to be played until the new year, and they're going to be short in midfield. So it'll be interesting to see what he does do, because I'd imagine they're going to play players out of position or little tweaks here and there to try and get by.
Yeah, absolutely. Any West Brom fans watching this show right now, let us know your thoughts on Robert Snodgrass' situation. Would you like to see him stay at the Hawthorns in the new year or offloaded? Please do let us know. Some more big EFL transfer news emerged over the weekend. Fulham reportedly lining up an £18 million bid for Angers midfielder Angelo Fulgini. I'm guilty. I haven't seen much of the player play. I don't think you two probably have as well. But certainly a player very highly rated over in France. 2 goals and 2 assists so far for Fulgini in 14 matches for Angers. £18 million is the price tag being touted here. A hefty amount, you'd feel, for a second-tier club. Adam, I think first and foremost, I was just staggered by the sort of money being bandied about here. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, when you think they're going to spend £12 million on Harry Wilson as well, I think that they kind of negotiated something where they didn't pay anything in the summer. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that was the case. And now to spend, £18 million on Fulgini, I think is a non-negotiable for me in the Championship. They can't spend that sort of money. I do want to see a thriving Fulham side, but I also want to see one that's financially healthy as well. So to spend £30 million on just 2 players, I think for me is unsustainable in the Championship. And if it's a Carvalho replacement, perhaps, then I think for me, he has to be. I think that money kind of has to be inserted into a bumper deal for Carvalho. I think having him there, the teenager would probably be more useful at the moment than having Fulgini there and spending so much money. And I know that Alexander Mitrovic, I know this is very fine details, but a couple of months ago he was saying, the importance of playing with players that he knows, Cabano, deckled over Reed and those sort of players as well. And obviously Wilson he's become more accustomed to as well. And obviously, that would help him thrive as well, having that familiarity. And obviously building a relationship with Carvalho since the start of this season. I know that he was involved last season, but more so this term. So for me, this one is a no-go in January. I think if they do get promoted, then sure, it's one that they could definitely go for. But in terms of the January transfer window, unless they negotiate a loan to buy option, and that only has to be an option, really, I don't see it being a mandatory clause, especially, they're not guaranteed to go up. So any deal, it would have to be a loan to buy for me, just with an option and not a permanent clause. So for me, just in general, one to avoid in January, unless that condition is met.
Yeah, we shall see with this one. I mean, prior to this show going live, I did a little bit of research on Fulgini and kind of watched a few clips of the type of style of play that he offers. He can operate in a very central midfield role, or is quite capable of playing a little bit more advanced and contributes in an attacking sense as well. Looks quite somewhat a box-to-box midfielder from what I saw anyway. There's lots of, we spoke about Frank Zambo-Anguissa a lot on this show over the last few weeks. He's very settled in Napoli, currently on loan from Fulham. Once again, it's looking increasingly likely that he will depart Craven Cottage at some point, given how he's doing so well with Napoli right now. Chris, what do you make of this? Given, there is speculation over Fabio Carvalho's future as well, isn't there, at Fulham? His contract situation remains uncertain, and obviously the Anguissa news as well. Do you think someone like Fulgini could fill that void? Again, from what you've seen and what you've heard about him?
Yeah, I think the type of player he is, from what we've heard, is maybe next season in the Premier League if they go up. I agree with Adam that it's for the Championship. You can't be committing that sort of money, and then would the player want to come for 6 months if they didn't go up? So I think if they keep Carvalho till the end of the season, there's a nice balance to the team. So it's all going to depend on him, really. If he goes, then you have to find a replacement in the new year. But if not, I presume they'll be able to keep Carvalho till the summer. And then I think this midfield now has the right balance. It's got enough creativity to get by and to win promotion. But then, as you say, with Anguissa as well, that's then something they need to reassess when they get to the Premier League. And it does sound like this guy is capable of playing in the top flight.
Yeah, absolutely. Any Fulham fans watching this show, send in your comments. What do you make of the reports linking you with Angelo Fulgini in the new year? £18 million is the figure being touted. Right, let's look at another piece of news next. Once again, a name that is refusing to go away in terms of being linked to EFL clubs, and that is Arsenal striker Fellain. Balogun. Bournemouth are the latest club to be linked with a move for the young Gunners striker. Middlesbrough and Swansea and Sheffield United have been among those linked with the player as well. Clearly not part of Mikel Arteta's first team plans at the minute. A loan move to the second tier is looking a viable option in the new year. Chris, let's come to you then first on this one. Balogun is a player with big potential. We've seen flashes of his quality during his brief kind of cameo appearances for Arsenal. Do you think a move to second tier is what he needs? And in particular, let's look at the Bournemouth interest, because that's a new club that's been linked with him. Bournemouth right now only really have Dom Solanke as their main kind of central centre forward options. What do you think of this from a Cherry's perspective, Chris?
Yeah, I think it'd be an exciting signing for any Championship club because of the potential. He's played for England under 21s, highly rated at Arsenal, and they did a lot to get him tied to a new contract. So he's clearly someone they rate. But yeah, from Bournemouth's perspective, I'm not sure they will get him because just have comparisons to Nketiah when he went to Leeds, and Arsenal are going to want to send him to go to be a second choice, and Solanke now is the main man. Obviously, Bournemouth need to find someone who can either play with him, but that's probably not going to happen too often, or be a backup. So they need to get a striker, but I don't think Balogun's unrealistic because Arsenal will want to send him somewhere where he'll definitely play. So yeah, I can see why they're interested, but I'd say Middlesbrough and Swansea would be more preferable destinations from Arsenal's view.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Nketiah comparison's a very, very solid point, given I think a lot of Arsenal were expecting him to really progress at Leeds United, get lots of game time, but he simply didn't, did he? Adam, do you echo Chris's thoughts there? I mean, Bournemouth, as we said, do only have that one striker, but it would be very surprising for Scott Parker to tweak that system and play 2 up top, or even drop Solanke, isn't it?
Yeah, I think for me they suit a 4-2-3-1. I think for me they could play a 3-4-1-2, but I think then you'd have to have Ryan Christie kind of as the advanced midfielder, and then you've got to have then Philip Billing as a vital player, kind of in a deeper position, and then that means either Jefferson Lerma, Lewis Cook, Kilkenny drops out. So for me, a 4-2-3-1, we've got to decipher first what the best formation for Bournemouth is, and I think for me the 4-2-3-1 suits them nicely with Ryan Christie on one wing. Obviously, you've got Jadon Anthony on the other one. I think that Philip Billing does enough kind of going forward and kind of goal contributions wise to fill the void of not having a second striker. And I think it's good to have Dominic Solanke kind of as the main man. I think they need to kind of return to that, really. So I think for me, a one up top would be better. I think they probably do need a striker to come in during the January transfer window. I know they've got Jamal Lowe, but he mainly played really alongside Andre Ayew at Swansea City. And I think for me, adapting to kind of being a lone striker, I'm not sure how he would really cope massively. But I think he'd be a decent asset, but you can't just rely on him. So I think for me, having that extra striker would be absolutely perfect. And I think, as Chris said, I think he'd probably be on the bench. And I think that would probably be more of a benefit to Bournemouth than it would to Arsenal. But if he does come to Bournemouth, then that's a good sign for them, because I think that he would be a great bench option to have, especially if Solanke gets injured. There's no guarantee that he'll stay fit either. So for me, it would be a good signing for Bournemouth if they stick with the 4-2-3-1 formation, which I think they should, but not necessarily the best move for Balogun and Arsenal.
Yeah, it's also worth noting that Saint Etienne over in France are also keen on Balogun in the new year. So definitely one to watch. Balogun's situation being linked with several EFL clubs as we speak. Right, we've got one more piece of EFL transfer news for you next. We're going to dive down into League One. Bolton Wanderers are eyeing a quite ambitious move, I think, for Morecambe striker Cole Stockton. Stockton's been in absolutely fantastic form for the Shrimpers this season. 15 goals in all competitions. And if you didn't see it, that fantastic halfway line goal against Fleetwood a week or so back, a quite stunning goal Stockton scored there for Morecambe, but Bolton are weighing up a move for the player. At the moment, Owen Doyle's only scored 4 goals for Wanderers in their striking department. They've had to rely on a lot of players outside that. Dapo Afolayan in particular has been a real key cog for them going forwards. And Elias Kachunga in recent weeks has really taken on the goal-scoring burden for Ian Everett's side. Chris, we'll come to you first. Stockton's arguably been one of the standout strikers in the third tier this season. There's no doubt about it. He's stepped up to life in the third tier with ease. Can you see this one happening? Because I'd be very surprised to see Morecambe let go of their prized asset to a League One rival.
Oh yeah, I think Morecambe are obviously they're definitely not going to want to sell, but money could talk in this. They're not. We know they've got a really small budget for League One standards. Even playing in the third tier was like a miracle for them, the way they won promotion last season. So I just wonder how much they'll be able to resist. And Stockton's form means he should command a decent fee. So if the money is put up, I wouldn't be too surprised, but I'd expect there to be a lot more top League One sides as well as Bolton, perhaps higher up in the table, that would want to sign him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought I could see a few kind of lower championship sides taking a punt on Stockton in the new year. He's shown he's got real quality this season in terms of his goal scoring output and overall play. Adam, as for, say Bolton did get this one over the line in January, just how big of a boost do you think this would be? And would he fit into Ian Everett's system, do you think?
Oh, I think he'd be an absolutely massive signing. I think he's adaptable as well. So I think for me, the most kind of impressive thing about Stockton is the fact that he scores a range of goals. Not only is he a poacher, but as you alluded to, he can score from the halfway line. Saw a really impressive volley as well, not too long ago from him as well. Cross came in for the right-hand side, dispatched it beautifully. So I think it'd be a fantastic signing for Bolton. I think it would be a massive surprise for me. And as you said, I mean, I think a lower kind of championship team will probably come in for him. I think they might wait until the summer. I think it would be a bit of a risk for maybe a team in the second tier to go for him at this stage. Obviously, he needs to settle in as well. But I think for me, I think if Stockton bided his time until the end of the season, I think that he would secure himself a championship move. But I think Bolton would probably be the move that he'd kind of secure kind of in the January. So I can definitely see kind of that one happening. Would it be the best move for him at the moment? I mean, I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, Bolton, they don't look exactly likely to go up at this stage. Obviously, it could come back to bite me, but I just think that there's so much competition in League One and it's so competitive this season that I don't think, as a recently promoted team as well, I'm not sure they'll kind of get up back to the Championship. So I don't know if it would be the very best move for him, but in terms of Bolton Wanderers as well, I think it would be a fantastic signing for them. So I think for me, this would be a move that benefits the club that are signing him more than the player, just like Balogun. So that kind of comparison can be made, but no, I think it'd be a good signing and, kind of one that takes the burden off Fellain, which I think is going to be important because you can't always rely on him.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly would be a statement signing from Bolton Wanderers if they did sign Cole Stockton from Morecambe in January. It has to be said. Right, that brings the EFL Transfer Zone show to an end here on FLW TV. Adam, Chris, thanks so much for joining me this afternoon. That was a great chat. And once again, thanks to all the viewers who tuned in for this show. If you are watching this show on demand, on repeat on YouTube, send in your comments down below and like the video as well. And if you're feeling generous, pop us a subscribe on YouTube. All the new subscribers we get are really, really appreciated. We've got another busy day on Football League World TV tomorrow, so make sure you stay tuned to what we've got. But until then, we'll see you next time.